Welcome to another Night of Academics. This is Foghorn from the Aurora Republic saying welcome to both our members and our guests. The Aurora Republic, if you don't know, is a premier role-playing organization within Star Citizen. And if you'd like to hear more, if you're a first-time visitor and you'd like to hear more, please contact us in Discord or in Spectrum or on our website, which is aurorarepublic.space. Very cool. Anywho, I think I've got all of the proper mute buttons unmuted, so I think I am actually transmitterizing. Womp. Okay. So tonight, what are we going to go over? We're going to go over Comm discipline, and we're going to finally get to something fun. We're going to get to... we are going to get to weapons, which always makes everybody smile. And then we're going to talk a little bit, we're going to go in and I'm going to do some demonstration for some aviation basics, specifically decoupled maneuvering. And we will bring us to our first skill challenge, of course, but that is for later. So weapons isn't a huge block of comm discipline, so that should go fairly quick. Anywho, so here we go. Boink. All right. Comm discipline. So first on our list of vocab for the evening is arm or armed hot. That would be a command to select your armament hot to basically enable your master arm switch into arm. We don't know if that's how it actually exists in the game. In modern aviation, you can individually select up weapons and ready them. Some of them have, sort of warm-up times or something like that, similar to the way your computer takes a little bit of time to boot up. But there is a master switch that will still keep all weapons in a non-launchable state until that's moved from the safe up to the master arm. So that's why that is gray, because we're not really sure if that's going to exist. But if it does, then a command when we're crossing the metaphorical fence into bad guy territory would be for everybody to arm or to let someone know that you are armed hot. Friendly surface-to aerospace missiles, SAMs, are known as birds. So if you hear SAM, that's meaning it's not a friendly one. That's an enemy SAM being shot at you. That's that term, and we'll come to that a little bit later. But friendly surface-to-air missiles or surface-to-aerospace missiles are called birds. And then if you're working with if you are doing some sort of a defensive counter-air mission, so you are protecting some sort of an asset or a region, and you're working in conjunction with some sort of a surface-to-aerospace missile unit, then some comm between them for letting know whether or not that the SAM unit would be able to help you out, back you up, would be birds affirm. When they launch, it would be birds away, and if they are unable to engage, it would be birds negate. That would be what you'd expect to hear. We do know there are going to be SAMs in here, because even at this point, at this early stage in the alpha, they've already announced a SAM variant, a SAM carrying variant of the Cyclone. So I expect there will probably be more to come. And I think the Nova Tonk also has some surface-to aerospace capabilities. Launch of a friendly torpedo is called a bruiser. That's the call that you'd make when you'd get your torpedoes away. You don't call, weapons away or torpedoes away or anything silly like that. It's just bruiser. Chaff is a command to dispense chaff. That's a countermeasure. Cheap shot is if you're going to launch, or if you have launched an unguided rocket air-to-air. Now, the Mustang Delta carries unguided rockets, which is kind of cool. I have one of these, and it's a hell of a lot of fun. Now, unguided rockets are really sort of meant in an air-to-surface sort of a role. Because obviously they don't guide. But if you're sneaky and you have good timing and you kind of know where the right point in a dogfight is to launch them, you can actually score hits air to air with unguided rockets, and because they don't have a guidance system. Because they don't have a guidance system, and they're pretty much nothing more than a rocket motor and a big bunch of explosives. So they tend to do a lot more damage than their size would lend one to believe. So like I said, that's called a cheap shot when you just shoot one unguided right in a dude's face, air to air. The next one is duck. So that's a tactical decoy. That would be a tactical sensor decoy. That would be something that you would launch that would basically it's a drone that would fly a predetermined profile and give off signatures of a much larger or a much different spacecraft. Like it would give off emissions to make it look like it's a fighter or maybe a bomber or something like that, and see if you can bluff your enemies into chasing that, not chasing you, or get them looking one way while you go the other way. A lot of different ways a duck can be used. All right. Next, flares, just like chaff. Flares means pump out a flare. So that's a call that your flight mate would make to you to tell you that, hey, you got a weapon inbound. Chaff, flare. They can call it out over the radio to get you to do it if perhaps you don't realize it's coming at you. Launch of a aerospace intercept missile and AIM missile is called a Fox. You call a number if you're going to tell them which type that it is you fired, such as, and so we've arbitrarily assigned 1, 2, and 3 for Star Citizen purposes for electronic signature guided missiles, 2 for infrared guided missiles, and 3 for cross-section guided missiles. So Fox 1, Fox 2, Fox 3, depending on which one of those you're firing, so that your friends in the turning dogfight with you know what they may not want to do. Like they may not want to go afterburner right across in front of your missile and see if it changed guidance. I am not exactly sure in how the Star Citizen's 1s and 0s, how it's programming, if it actually is doing simulated what those sensors in the front of the missile are doing, or whether that's all just sort of brushed under the rug and just like, yeah, they've successfully locked this missile to this guy and therefore it guides to that guy unless that guy manages to defeat it. Just as a side note, in real life, okay, the whole thing of like locking missiles, that is a 100% Hollywood thing that does not exist in the real world. Missiles do not lock to things. There's no lock. That's a completely Hollywoodism. Top Gun, the whole little crosshair thing dancing around on the screen. Beep, beep, beep. Come on, baby, lock up. That's Hollywood. That's not the way it really works. Anyway, neither here nor there. Guns. If you're engaging somebody with guns and you call that over the radio, Eagle 2 in hot for guns. Music is the word for electronic countermeasures, specifically jamming, sensor jamming. So if you were flying some sort of a sensor platform. Now, the reason I have this gray is because I'm not 100% sure that what CIG is calling ECM, aka or electronic warfare, I should say, isn't purely their quantum travel interdiction. They've not talked anything about any sort of actual ECM in the classic sense of being able to, jizz the other dude's radar and deny him, sensor information. I would assume that's probably a thing because that's kind of a standard of flying simulations. That's pretty much a staple. But I have not heard them say one hide nor hair. So I'm putting that in the gray category right now of like, we'll see what develops as they continue to develop this software towards being a game. So yeah, music on, music off would be if you're in some sort of a dedicated jammer platform when you're starting your jamming and turning off your jamming. Because, oh, by the way, jamming is not specific. Jamming doesn't take sides. If anybody jams, everybody gets jammed. So it's just kind of how it works. You can't make the electrons magically not go hit your friends as well. Okay, on to noses cold. Noses cold is the opposite of armed hot. Up in the last slide up at the very beginning. So that tells whoever it is you're talking to that all of your onboard armament is safe. That also includes onboard countermeasures. Onboard countermeasures are considered armament as well. Because, yeah, if you were a ground crew and you're running around one of these things and somebody pukes a flare out on you, that's probably going to ruin your day. Again, same comment earlier about, well, we don't know if there's going to be a master arm switch. There hasn't been in development yet. That's why you can, if you squeeze a trigger, the guns go off, Anywho. Next one is rifle. You call rifle when you launch an air-to-surface missile, or air-to-ground missile is what we'd call it today. But we've aerospace to surface, because it wouldn't just be, surface could be like a station or something as well. So we don't really 100% know that we're going to have dedicated aerospace to surface weaponry other than torpedoes. We know torpedoes are going to be in there. They've talked about that. I have a sneaking suspicion that they might just make your air-to-air weaponry also go air-to-ground. That way, like the old video game Ace Combat 6, or the whole Ace Combat series. Oh, hey, cool, I can shoot Sidewinders at the ground. That's cool. Nice video game, dude. Too bad that's not the way it works in real life. So if they do have dedicated air-to-surface missiles, then that rifle would be what you call there. If not, we may edit this one out of a later date as we see what they do with real life. Okay, like I mentioned earlier, birds are friendly. SAMs are not. SAMs are the enemy. So you call SAM in direction if you have visual acquisition of a SAM launch. So Eagle 1, SAM, left 9 o'clock, defending would be a radio call using that. Scud is a surface-to-surface missile, so that'd be something you would spot. If anybody remembers back during Desert Storm, or I should say in the wind down at the end of Desert Storm, there was a lot of military action going out into the desert and scud hunting, trying to basically take out Saddam's scud so they couldn't continue harassing Jerusalem and most of the rest of Israel. Well, not just them, but that was who they were shooting at most. Shotgun is use of those same unguided rockets I talked about earlier, but if you shoot them in their intended role, which is at the surface, then that call is shotgun. Snapshot is a high angle or high line of sight shot, and what I mean by high angle or high line of sight, if you're sort of maybe shooting them in, sort of shooting at the front aspect, like you guys are doing the standard, pretty standard at the start of a dogfight. Well, in Star Citizen anyway. The game of chicken, where you guys are running head on at each other. Any shots you're taking out there where you guys are head to head, that's basically a snapshot, because you're not really going to be able to track the guy when your guys are nose to nose like that. The cousin to snapshot is tracking or track, and that's where you're in a saddled, stabilized control position where you can just, as they maneuver around trying to defend against your shots, you can just continually follow them. It basically means you're behind them and that you're able to just continue putting aimed, accurate fire down upon them. Okay, so I bracketed strafe. Strafe is much like guns. Guns is, hey, I'm, two's in hot for guns is for air-to-air. It's two's in hot for strafe if you're going to strafe a surface target with your guns. And the last one is if somebody defeats your missile shot, and you call that shot is trashed, a hostile torpedo coming out, just the opposite of Bruiser. Bruiser is a friendly torpedo going out to destroy an enemy capital craft. Vampire is a hostile one coming in. And oh, by the way, for all those who didn't play Wing Commander in the 90s, you can actually shoot down torpedoes, or you could shoot down torpedoes en route. Back then, I don't know if that's going to be capable in Star Citizen, but Star Citizen is being made by the same guy, so we'll see. Again, that's another being able to shoot down the torpedoes as they're flying from A to B. Is a wait-and-see thing. Weapons. So this is actually an ROE call for whether you're weapons free, weapons tied, or weapons hold or safe. Weapons hold or safe basically means the same thing. So some people say weapons hold, some people say weapons safe. Weapons free means you can shoot at anybody that is not a friendly. Okay. Weapons tight means you can only shoot at people who are specifically identified as a hostile, as bandit or hostile. And then, of course, weapons hold or weapons safe means you shoot only in self-defense or in response to a formal order. So what do we mean by not identified as a friendly or positively identified as a bandit? That doesn't mean the same thing. Basically, the question is what do you do with unknowns? So if you're in weapons tight and you don't know what that contact is, you have to positively identify it as a bandit or hostile before you can shoot it. Whereas in weapons free, as long as I can go, where is the rest of my good guys? They're all over here by me. I don't know what that contact is. I can fire on it without having to identify what it actually is. I just have to confirm that it's not one of us, and that's it. And the last one is Winchester. That's just simply that's a informative call you make when you have no more missiles remaining and your guns only, so that people know that you're reduced at a reduced state of lethality. Yeah, I know what I just said about lethality, and I'm talking about missiles and Star Citizen, which are apparently right now made out of Nerf until you get to about size 5 or bigger. So fully understood. I'm caveating that up front, so don't beat me up about it. Okay. So quick talk about decoupled maneuvering, and then I'll go in and do a little demo and work on our first serious skill challenge. Well, let me say second serious skill challenge, because I already did one on dark side landings to help folks out to kind of, not go bump in the night. So decoupled maneuvering is basically when you turn the couple off, just like it says, and you can maneuver around you won't have the help of the Comm stab and the IFCS counteracting everything you're doing once you start a control input in one direction. In other words, whatever you put in, you have to put out. If you start strafe to the right, when you let off of your controls, the spacecraft does not stop. It'll just keep coasting to that direction when you're out there in space. So you, the pilot, have to take out whatever you put in. So there's a couple of different techniques that I'll demonstrate once I get here into the game. The first one we'll call is the axial thrust technique, or the good old stop and go. And that is where you only move the spacecraft in one axis at a time. And usually you do it with the nose and just forward strafe or back strafe. That way, remember that rounded square with the little caret in it is your flight path marker, or your velocity vector. So when you first start out, if you've never tried, doing like decoupled landings before, then this is a good technique to do. So start from a dead stop somewhere near the pad, not right over to, but give yourself some distance to have to fly. Make yourself do the work of having to fly up to it and land successfully on it. Start from a stop, then turn off then hit the couple decouple switch and turn off the decouple, or turn off the couple. Decouple the IFCS, and then so you're starting from a stop. Just point your crosshairs where you want to go, and then just use forward strafe, which is the number 2 key right now. Will probably change in the future because it seems to change every patch. The number 2 key for a little forward strafe, and watch your speed. Come in slow and easy, and then before you try to change which axis you're moving on, hit number 3, the back strafe, and stop the spacecraft first before you now try to go up, down, or right, or left, or anything like that. So in other words, you only maneuver in one axis at a time. That takes longer. It's less efficient, but if you're learning, this is the way to do it. It's the safest way to do it without losing control of your vector, which is what typically will happen. Once you get comfortable with that, then I would highly suggest, in Arena Commander, logging in, doing some decouple movements, and paying attention to how your flight path marker moves around on your screen when you put in different strafes, whether you sway right and left, whether you surge forward or back, or whether you heave up or down. There are some general rules that you'll find happen. So when you are moving forward, if your crosshair is off from your flight path marker, any forward thrust tends to draw the flight path marker towards the crosshair. any backwards thrust tends to push the flight path marker away from your crosshair. Any sideways thrust or up or down thrust just tends to move the flight path marker in that direction, wherever it's at. So if I've got my nose pointed off to the left and the flight path markers over somewhere in the middle of the right hand half of the screen, and so in other words, if I strafe up, that flight path marker will just simply slide up in my screen as my additional upward thrust changes my vector to head up that direction, and vice versa. It's the forward and back, straight down the crosshair, forward and back thrust that will either move the flight path marker towards the crosshair, or a backwards thrust will tend to push it away from the crosshair, which can get a little confusing. So that's the one that's the toughest. And the good news is that I'm down in Tampa. So I am on my old dyno computer with my crappy stick and the keyboard. So if you're a keyboard and mouse flyer or a keyboard and stick flyer like I am right now, I don't get the advantage of my fancy dual stick setup, which makes this a little bit easier. So I will be using the same digital on-off thrusters that anybody else who uses a keyboard is stuck with. So this won't be any easier. Anybody have any questions before we go on in there? And I'll show you some decoupling and then some decoupled landings as well. Alrighty. So let's get out of the doink. Alright, so let's do that. Okay, and then we will bring up that. And I will go over here and do that. Okay, so there we go. I'm going into Arena Commander. I'm going to go single player. I'm going to go free flight because we're just free flying. Try not to make it so ungodly bright. I'll just use a starter ship, so I'll use the Mustang Alpha just like everybody else. And we'll go on in. See if the dyno computer can handle it. At least I didn't wake up looking at my eyeballs. Right? Okay. Alrighty, so strafe up here a little bit. And around this center, there is, trying to pick up visual on the landing pads. There they are. I guess I'm over here. Well, there they go. It's right over there. Okay. That's good. They got the big rock right behind them too, so it'll be easy to kind of see what I'm doing here. Alrighty, so I will just do some decouple stuff first before I go in and do some landings, just so you can kind of see. Alright, do I have this properly? Not comm stabbed? Nope. Alright. I'm going to have to change this real quick, and I'm going to bind this to a key. Decoupled mode. I'm going to toggle that on. Put it on that button. Okay. I don't want you guys on my stick, so to speak. There we go. Gotta go like that, that, and then we are ready. Okay. Okay. So, decouple. Now I'm going to thrust forward. Or am I? Okay. That's interesting. Why is my... Ah, okay, there we go. Okay, so I got some speed going. I got about 50 knots going, and you'll see that I have the flight path marker off to the right, so you can see. If I hit left or right strafe, the flight path marker moves left or right, depending on... So it matches my keys. Okay, if I go up or down, it goes up or down, matching keys. And so I can just point that flight path marker where I want to go. Now here's the strange one that you'll deal with and it'll get you confused. If I stray forward, it moves, it not only accelerates me, but it moves the flight path marker closer and closer to my crosshair like you see there. If I put the crosshair in the middle of the flight path marker, and then I can stray forward or back. Oh no. And it doesn't really change. It stays pretty much right at, because the thrust is going right down the center line of the spacecraft. So now you see I got the caret going down because I'm going backwards. So now I'm in the same situation except for I'm flying backwards away. And again, as I going backwards, these controls of whether they push forward or back, whether they push the flight path marker towards or away from the crosshair, does the same exact thing, only in reverse. So now because I'm going backwards, if I push forward strafe, it pushes that flight path marker away and I slow down in the reverse. And if I hit reverse, it pulls it towards the crosshair and I go faster. Now that I've got forward velocity, you can see that it, for continuing at adding forward velocity, pulls the flight path marker back towards the front. Now I'll get backwards velocity, and again, if I have it anywhere off of the crosshair, a back strafe moves it towards, but a forward strafe moves it away. So that should hopefully have you completely confused, because it can get very confusing. Okay, so I'm going to see if I can manage to get over here and land just totally using staying decoupled the entire time, and I'll go land on I'm going to try to land on pad 1. Well, this is very difficult. So of course, notice that my flight path marker doesn't change in the upper left there, even though I'm going to rotate down and take a look at pad 1. This will be very sporty. Okay, so I need... Okay. Digital. Sucks. Oop, 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 oop. God. Okay, I think we're over it. Exterior check. Yeah, looks pretty close. Alright, so we're going to ease our way down, or maybe we go F4. Come on. Freaking digital. This is why flying with keyboard is a pain in the butt, because you can't just go just a little bit. There we go. And if you go into precision mode, then that will actually help with the... So as you can see, I'm dancing around here because of good old-fashioned keyboard being a pain. Trying to kill the drift. Put her down. Put her down. Put her down. Put her down. There you go. Alright. Not my best flying, but this stuff's not supposed to be easy. Alright, so just back out and we'll try it one more time, and then we will go in and we are going to practice this tonight, whether you like it or not. And if I see anybody who's been in this chat, all 11 of you, and you guys end up DD-mowing out, I will make fun of you publicly for not coming in here, for being a big wimp, not coming in here and crashing your airplane like a man. Sorry, Lisa. I can come in here and embarrass myself with crappy decoupled flying in public, then you can too. Builds character, not to mention some skills. There we go. Plant it. Plant it. There we go. Okay, that's how she's done. Not pretty, but that's my landing. Okay. Boink. So that wraps us up for Academics with Foghorn with a little bit of flying and all that good stuff. If you are a visitor to the Aurora Republic and want to hear more about our organization and what it is we do, a premier role-playing organization, lawful good type within Star Citizen. It's a good group of people that are actively recruiting on Discord and Spectrum. And as you can see, we do all kinds of silly training and have a lot of fun and good fellowship. So for the rest of the folks here, I hope you found that interesting and helpful, and we're going to practice this a little bit tonight, and I will see you in a couple of seconds here as soon as I turn everything off. And this is Foghorn signing off, saying I hope you have the pleasant rest of your morning, afternoon, and or evening. Thank you very much.